The number one comment I get on my note-taking videos is comments asking me to show how I actually do this. How do I create Zettelkasten nodes? How do I implement them into my system? So in this video, I'm going to take a practical example. I'm currently studying artificial intelligence and I'm reading this book, and I am going to be processing my notes that I took while reading this book. So I'm going to take my time for this. I'm going to show you exactly how I do it and how slowly I do it. So this is your chance to get a sneak peek behind the scenes of what actually goes on in Misha's Zettelkasten system, which now contains 4,000 nodes. So let's get into it. As you see, I have the physical copy here. That's how I read it. But I have also purchased a PDF version of this. So this is all legal. I have I have done my purchases. So I can show you a little bit from the contents as I'm going along, because it's really important that I drive home some of the key concepts of artificial intelligence, of Zettelkasten, I mean, and as I'm learning about artificial intelligence. So I've been reading this book, and I took notes first in this little notebook and then later in another notebook. Now, normally I would process these on the same day or the next day. However, my life has been extremely hectic these past couple of weeks, and I just had a little bit of time in the evening to actually do the reading, so I prioritized just reading and then taking the notes. So I'm kind of working through the backlog of notes. Ideally, this is done on the same day, so I'm not sure how fresh everything is still in my mind as I go through this. But here we go. So here are the scribbles that I took for this, and I'm just going to start with the first scribbles. And it says here, Ray Kurzweil's definition of singularity: when AI reaches and exceeds human intelligence, powered by self-learning or by learning autonomously and self-improving. So that's the first thought that I'm capturing, the first thing that I'm capturing, because everything in this Zettelkasten system is about modularity, modular nodes. So I can either use my Obsidian or my command line. Well, to get started a bit easier, I will just start with Obsidian. So I'm going to create a new node, and that is going to be, this node is actually about Ray Kurzweil's definition of singularity. So I will do Ray Kurzweil's definition of singularity. That is the name of the node. And I should probably also just enable show me the key so you can see which keys I'm pressing as I'm navigating this. Here we go. So now you should be able to see what I'm doing. And the Apple key here is the super key. So Ray Kurzweil's definition of singularity. And I've already made a mistake, I see. Okay, so here we go. Ray Kurzweil's definition of singularity. When AI reaches and exceeds So this is the note that I wrote down in my notebook. When AI reaches and exceeds human intelligence, powered by learning autonomously and self-improving. Now, I always write down my notes in my own words. It's always my own words, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't contain any similar words. So if I just go to the book here and I just search for Ray or for just Kurzweil here. So this is the original quote. This is the original quote here. Ray Kurzweil and his vision of the singularity in which AI, empowered by its ability to improve itself and learn on its own, will quickly reach and then exceed human level intelligence. So let me just copy that. So above here is my own note, and down here is the original text. So you can see here that instead of saying, like, one change I did is that here in the end it says, then exceed human level intelligence. Well, I brought that to the front. When AI reaches and exceeds human intelligence, powered by learning autonomously, and here it says, empowered by its ability to improve itself and learn on its own. And I turned that into learning autonomously and self-improving. So I'm keeping the same meaning, but I put it into my own words. And this process of putting it into your own words really solidifies your thinking. And this is the key aspect of the Zettelkasten method, that you don't just take this and copy it into your system and ta-da, you're done. That doesn't have any value at all. Like maybe you have a nice quote for later, but it doesn't have any value. This has value because this is a note that I can use later in my own writing, and I can just I can use this as my own writing. I just need to stitch a few of these notes together and I have an essay. So I might here also include a reference to the page number that I used. So I will then include a reference that I took this from page XX in the prologue. So just so that I know later, if I want to find Ray Kurzweil's definition of singularity again, I know where to look. So that was my first note, and this is all that I want to have in this note. I just simply want to capture Ray Kurzweil's definition of singularity, and for now I could just create a link to singularity actually singularity, because I know that I'm going to be linking to that in other notes as well. So I created this link, and now this node is done. Let's go to the next one. So as I was reading this, I was actually very interested in the definitions of AI, first of all. Like everything needs to start with the definitions, in my opinion. And I'm now studying AI because I feel I've mastered Kubernetes to a degree that I can learn what I need to learn. I can use it for what I need to use it for. I can work with it. And now I want to deepen my knowledge on artificial intelligence. And in order to do that, I'm just starting with the basics, with the definitions, and then going from there. So I already have a node called artificial intelligence, which I can open. I have to artificial intelligence. So let me just enable, show me the key again. Here we go. So this is my artificial intelligence node already. And I think I will add a definition section on this node, because I use index nodes for all of my Zettelkasten work. Some people call these maps of content. I like the term index better. So actually I'm going to create a new heading here called definitions. And I'm going to add definition of artificial intelligence. And I'm also going to add the word AI just because it becomes more searchable. Now, I am going to add this to my daily node as well. As you see, I am creating all of these nodes from my daily node, and I'll explain later why I do that. So just bear with me. I'm just going to process these nodes first, and then I'm going to show you how I am going to be structuring these nodes and referring them to one another. So the next node is as follows. This is exactly what I wrote. Term AI invented by Okay, so this is the these are the notes that I wrote in my little notebook here. And now I'm going to continue. I'm going to just sit here and reflect on what I wrote there and how do I want to pull this apart? Do I think this is enough? And again, these are all in my own words, except for this this part here. And because I took these notes maybe a week or two ago, it's not fresh in my mind anymore. And this is why it's so important that you make it a habit to process these notes like on the same day or the day after, because then you remember the context. And I don't really remember the context anymore. So I'm actually going to go and read about McCarthy again. McCarthy. So here it speaks about McCarthy, and he basically came up with the term artificial intelligence. McCarthy later admitted that no one really liked the name. After the goal was genuine, not artificial intelligence, but I had to call it something, so I called it artificial intelligence. So he's the one that came up with the term. And here it says that organize a 2-month, 10-man study of artificial intelligence to be carried out during the summer of 1956. The term artificial intelligence was McCarthy's invention. So here it says literally that he came up with the term, and that's why I noted it down like this. So that is basically the source of this line here. Invented by McCarthy in 1956, he founded Stanford AI project in the early 60s. That is later. So here I might create a note about this McCarthy person, but as I've continued in the book, he is not really mentioned as much anymore. I'm not necessarily interested in knowing more about him, but I do have notes about people like Brian Johnson, for example. Like I would have a note about that person, and then I would like have notes about that person be linked from that note, for example. But this time I don't need to do that because McCarthy is not as interesting to me. I just want to capture who invented the term. So I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this this setup. It's just a nice clean sentence that says where the definition of AI comes from. So next is the actual definition. And here I have used quotes. So that is interesting. And now I'm going to be looking at how that's actually phrased in the document. Here we go. A branch of computer science that studies the properties of intelligence by synthesizing intelligence. So here the author talks about, in a recent report on the current state of AI, a committee of prominent researchers defined the field as a branch of computer science that studies properties of intelligence by synthesizing intelligence. So this is the definition that is being used in the book itself. So here it speaks more about, like, it goes more into the details of it, but this is the moment where the author takes a stance and gives a definition. Now, this one, you may notice, I have not turned into my own words. So in my Zettelkasten course, which you can get by joining my KubeCraft community, the link will be down below. It's a full course on how to create your Zettelkasten in Obsidian. But in this course, I put a lot of emphasis that Nicholas Luhmann, the inventor of the Zettelkasten method, rarely used quotes. You should use them very sparingly. And I also use them very sparingly. But very sparingly does not mean that you should never use them. And in this case, there is a committee that went out and came out with a definition. And here I think it is actually a good decision to use the specific wording of that definition. And I did change it a little bit. I see I left out a little bit. So actually now now that I review it again, I want to just take the entire text. I think I might have abbreviated that because I didn't want to write it all out by hand. Okay. And then the context is a committee of prominent researchers defined the field in a recent report. So let's check out what that report is about. 100-year study on artificial intelligence. Interesting. So can we find that report? There we go. Okay, so this is the report, the source material. And then I think I kind of like to include this report here. Oh, oops. I will just include this link into the note. So that is then the source material comes from 100-year study on artificial intelligence. So I will include that link in here. Okay. Then I will copy the name of it. And then I will write the context myself. I will say the author takes a stance on the definition of artificial intelligence in chapter. What is the chapter? Definitions and getting on with it. Page. So what is the page of that? Page 6. The author takes a stance on the definition of artificial intelligence on page 6. Using the, what does she call it? A study. A committee of prominent researchers, a recent report on the current state of AI. Using the definition, she offers the definition used in a report on the state of AI by Stanford, 100-year study on artificial intelligence. A branch of computer science that studies the properties of intelligence by synthesizing intelligence. Okay. So now I have kind of put this into my own words. I am now reflecting on the definition itself, where it came from, exactly how she phrased it. And like, we're probably already 10 minutes into the video and I'm only on my second note. And I'm showing you this like laboriously. I'm showing you exactly what I do. I'm not doing this hastily to get views. This video is probably going to get horrible watch time because I'm just so slow. But the point of the Zettelkasten method is to take it slow. It won't work if you do it quickly. What I'm showing you here is the actual thinking process that I go through. It's the actual process that enables me to learn 10 times faster than my peers because I engage deeply with the material that most people just don't have the patience for. And the Zettelkasten method is a vehicle to enable that. Okay. So later, so this I might expand with other notes reflecting on this definition, but I am currently happy with this definition, like a branch of computer science that studies the properties of intelligence by synthesizing intelligence. That is basically a very clear and concise definition of the term artificial intelligence. But later I have written AI is a field with the goal of creating machines with intelligence. And I wish I had noted where I got that from. But this is just a note that I wrote myself. These are my own words. I didn't quote around it. This is just my own words, basically. And maybe field of... let me see. AI is a field with the goal of creating machines with intelligence. I'm just... here. Here is it. Here it is. An anarchy of methods. So this actually came earlier. Let me see. Let's read through this. In fact, in much of the popular media, the term artificial intelligence itself has come to mean deep learning. This is an unfortunate inaccuracy, and I need to clarify the distinction. AI is a field that includes a broad set of approaches with the goal of creating machines with intelligence. That is basic. This is the broad definition of what we're doing. Deep learning is only one sub-approach. Deep learning is itself one method among many in the field of machine learning, a subfield of AI in which machines learn from data or from their own experiences. Okay, so this comes a bit later, actually. This is then, yes, this is the definitions and getting on with it chapter. This is the next chapter. So I actually like this this chapter a lot, and it says AI. It really pulls it apart. It makes it very clear what AI is and what it's not. So AI is a field. Let's break this down. For the sake of clarity, I will just break this up. I will copy this and just break it up a bit. So here, this is what I wrote. AI is a field with the goal of creating machines with intelligence. So I did quote a bit of it. I would say I'm paraphrasing here because I'm leaving out a bit of the quote. So I did put this in my own words in that sense. So the goal of the AI field is to create machines with intelligence. Then I will just, in the following chapter, the author makes some very important distinctions. She highlights that in popular media, the term AI has become synonymous with deep learning. This is unfortunate. And this is, here we go. This is an unfortunate inaccuracy. In fact, much of the popular media, the term artificial itself become to mean deep learning. So you see how I did this from memory. I just read this, but I rewrote it in a slightly different way. In the following chapter, and I'll include the chapter name, which is called An Anarchy of Methods. The author makes some very important distinctions. She highlights that in popular media, the term AI has become synonymous with deep learning. And here she says, has come to mean deep learning. So it is a different way of phrasing it, but it still means the same. So these are my own words. I can just publish this as my own words and I won't be infringing on any copyright. Well, I'm also attributing the meaning to the author. So it's a very careful balancing act that you need to do as a writer. But this is what I also mean with writing as if ready for publication. Nicholas Luhmann did this. So whenever you write notes in a Zettelkasten like this, you have to write as if it's going to be published. And what I'm writing here is basically a whole chapter of a blog post or an essay or whatever. I could just use this as a full note or a full resource. So, again, she highlights the popular to become synonymous with deep learning. This is unfortunate. She goes on to explain that the goal of the AI field is to create machines with intelligence. Deep learning is a, what do you call it? Here she says, is only one such approach. It's one method among many in the field of machine learning. Deep learning is a method, an approach. I like the word method. Deep learning is itself one method among many in the field of machine learning, a subfield of AI. Deep learning is actually a method which is part of machine learning. Deep learning is a type of artificial not AI itself. I like that. And then later there is machine learning, but I also have another note that I wrote down here where it says, this is what I wrote down. Okay, so this is what I wrote down. A subfield of AI in which machines learn from data or from their own experiences. So that is then definitely going to be a new note about machine learning. That's going to be a new index in my system, I suppose. Because machine learning is not AI. Machine learning is a subfield of AI. And I like the word subfield, but I will just call it a yeah, okay. I will just copy the word subfield in this case because it's, well, maybe thesaurus. Well, this is maybe a time where I would maybe ask Claude. Sometimes it's, if I'm stuck, then I will help because English is not my first language, so I like to use thesaurus, but sometimes I just use my I use AI to find a synonym for words. So let's find another way of phrasing subfield here. A branch of a domain within AI. Yeah, a domain within AI. I like that. Deep learning is itself one method among many in the field of machine. A branch of AI. Yeah, a branch. I like that one. A branch. So here I'm going to refine this into machine learning is a branch of AI where machines learn from their own data or experiences. So here, a subfield of AI in which machines learn from data or their own experiences. I have kind of put this in a different way. I mean, I know the concept now. I know that its relation to AI, but I have taken a different word. And by doing this process, I have molded over in my mind, and therefore it is more lodged into my mind now. And that's why it's so important that I take my time to really deeply reflect on this and spend some quality time while doing this. So how this, which belongs to, belong to machine learning. Deep learning is a type of artificial intelligence, not AI itself. Okay. So then machine learning, this can actually be a separate node. So this is a definition of machine learning. And that one I will actually add to the definitions one here. But as you see, it springs from this node where I'm defining AI. And in that way, the fact that machine learning is a subfield of AI is now reflected in this node. Let me see. She goes on to explain. Yes. So this node then talks about machine learning is a branch of AI where machines learn from their own data or experiences. So I've now processed another page in my little notebook. And I didn't write any much further on machine learning as I wrote these notes down. But now I'm kind of interested in the fact where the author she uses this. Oh, I should actually add this one again here. Okay. Okay. So here she quotes this word experiences. And now I kind of want to know more about this experiences. And this I will actually just use Claude for. In this sentence, the author has put experiences in quotes. I'm learning, I'm studying AI from the ground up. And I'd like to know more about what you think the author implied by putting this in quotes. I realize machines can't actually experience anything, but could you explain it to me? Let me see what Claude says. You've touched on a fascinating and philosophically rich question. The use of quotation marks about learned experience signals that there are analogies or approximations. When we say machines learn, it's fundamentally different from human learning. Yeah, what's really happening is statistical pattern recognition. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she goes into that later in the book. Optimization of numeric. Yeah. So it's not actually learning in the sense of how a human learns. Similarly, a machine experiences aren't experiences in any conscious or phenomenological sense. They're really just input data points, training examples, and recorded interactions or outcomes. Now, I love how Claude is explaining this. The quotation marks serve as a kind of epistemological humility, acknowledging that we're borrowing terms from human cognition and consciousness to describe what are essentially mathematical and computational processes. Oh, this is so good. I wish I wrote that myself. It's similar to how we might say a thermostat knows when to turn on the heat. It's a useful metaphor, but no one would argue that the thermostat has actual knowledge in the way humans do. This distinction becomes particularly important in AI ethics and philosophy of mind discussions. Wow, this is so good. Thank you so much, Claude. While AI systems can process information and adjust their behavior based on data, there is still an open question about whether they can have genuine experiences or consciousness in the way biological entities do. Okay, so this is really useful. And this is also, I'm showing you this because I often use Claude in this way as a kind of mentor or teacher. And I use AI it's fascinating that I'm now using AI to learn about AI. That in itself is hugely fascinating. But I really like the way Claude put this. And I'm actually, I'm not a fan of copying AI or copying text straight from AI, and this is definitely not going to be published, but this is just so good that I'm not going to let this go to waste. So in the book, the author put learn and experiences in quotation marks, signaling that machines do not actually learn or experience. However, for the sake of communication, we must use these words to indicate that machine learning can enable machines to perform tasks better and better over time. We use the word, the human term learning for this, but in reality, what's happening is that the model is gaining more accurate statistical data. So this is basically my own phrasing of this. So yes, I'm reusing the AI text here. And then Claude. When I asked Claude about this, it generated this fascinating piece of text. So usually I won't like have my notes this large, but in this case, this is just something that I stumble upon, and I really like how Claude explained this, but I'm just going to indicate that this was generated by Claude, and then I can use this note later for further reflection if I want to go deeper into how machines learn or experience. But I've realized the point. It drove the point home to me that machines don't actually learn. It's just statistical pattern recognition. And for the stage of my research that I'm in currently, that is all I need to know. I don't necessarily want to go deep into how machines actually learn and how these models actually work, although I did take more notes on that, which I'm going to be doing in the next section. But this is how deep I want to go, and then I use this as data for later reference, and I can also include the Claude link here, so I can just find that later. And then now I'm finished with this node. Okay, so now that I have a few nodes created now I can show you how I will actually structure this, because I've now been adding these both to my daily node and this artificial intelligence node. But what I also like to do is to create input nodes. So what I do is I create a node that represents this book. And let me see, artificial intelligence, a guide for thinking humans. So this is the node that represents the book. And I'm moving this to input books. I have every book I read that I take notes on. It has its own entry in my system. And then from this node, I'm going to be adding these as well. So, and let's turn that into a bulleted list because I like the look of that. Here we go. So what this achieves, and I show you all of this because I want to show you why I do this. So what this achieves by adding it from the daily node, the artificial intelligence node, and having my book node where these nodes originate from, is that I can, for example, go to the definition of artificial intelligence node. And when I then go to the backlinks of this node, I see where it comes from. So if I do the, what is it? Local graph, open local graph here. So here I see that this node is linked to several nodes here. I can see that it was created on this date because that's where it spawned from. So if I click there, then I can also see what I was up to on that day. And I see that I have created different AI related nodes on that day. That is interesting already. Then I see that it is part of an index node called Artificial Intelligence and AI. And this one has a lot of different nodes already. And going back to definition of intelligence, I also see that this node actually spawned a different node. Here we go. And this is why I like to do it this way. And maybe I can even excalibrate. Do I have that open? Yeah, here we go. This is another reason why I like to do it. When I use Excalibrate, with this one it becomes even clearer. So here I have my artificial intelligence node, but this is my definition of artificial intelligence. And here it becomes even clearer that this node, its parent nodes are the daily node here and the book node. I can see that this node comes from there. And then this node led to this node. Machine learning is a branch of AI. And now I can see that this node, its parents are also here. It's on this daily node, it's in the book, and it is related to these other nodes. Now, when I take this book node, here I see that it originated from this date. So this is when I started writing about it. That can be an interesting point of data to have. But because the way Excalibrate renders it, I see that this node led to the following nodes down here. And I can see its interrelations. So if I were to link Ray Kurzweil's definition of singularity to the machine learning node, for example, then I should be able to see that here. Yeah, here we see that this link is now it is now connected to this node, which wasn't there before. I don't actually want to connect it to it, but that's just an example. And for me, I like to use these visual explorations of my Zettelkasten to when I go deeper into this and I want to see visually which nodes are related to what, and I can expand the number of branches and such like. It is super useful. So these are the first few nodes that I've created on this topic. Now in the next section, I'm going to be using my NeoVim workflow and showing you how I use that as well.